I'm actually really optimistic about AI. I think on a long enough timeline, AI cures all of humanity's ills. I think in 100 years, AI will be the best thing that's ever happened to us. But in 50 years, it's going to be a lot of growing pains.
Welcome to Strategy in Action, where we reveal how industry leaders build real market gravity, the force that naturally attracts opportunities, partnerships, and profits. You get raw insights, proven frameworks, and strategies that actually move the needle in your business. Let's get started. Kasim Aslam is on the show today, and we're talking about this amazing critical skill to have as an entrepreneur, which is hiring talent. Not only the mechanics of it and how to get somebody great on your team, but even before then, letting in the fact that it is absolutely critical that you do so. That's something that, I've worked on even since recording this interview and going through Kasim's book, which definitely check that out. Go to thehirebook.com, get his book and a bunch of other resources for free. It's fantastic. It's not just about how to go out and hire folks, but how to get amazing folks. And then when you have people in, how do you work with them the best way? It's an amazing skill because if, as an entrepreneur, if you can't figure out how to get other people to help you in that endeavor, you're going to be limited. It's not that you fail, it's that what you build is very different than what you build if you have a team. And we get into that early on. Kasim brings that point home really well, that it's really just deciding what kind of entrepreneur, what kind of business do you want to have. And Kasim and I would both argue that even for someone who is kind of operating at that solopreneur level, and even if you want to stay at that one person business, there's still power in having that executive assistant, having this outside help in these certain areas so that you can do what you're amazing at and really thrive, even if it's in that solopreneur style business. I think by the end of it, you'll be on board if you aren't already. All right, let's jump in. Kasim, welcome to the show.
Jason, thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. So glad you're doing this. We jumped in here already talking about the amazing miracles that people are. And I was like, we gotta hit record because this is already gold. You've got a brand new book out called Hire, and I'm deep in the middle. I'm probably about page 90. What about halfway? A little over halfway. I'm a slow reader. Sorry, but forgive me, everybody. I need the audio in my ear. And it's already just so fantastic, and it really inspired this conversation today, this core topic that I think I could feel you reaching out through the book, just wanting to smack people into just stop thinking about hiring and employees and all of that in this old factory commoditized model. So I want to dig in deep with that because I know you're passionate about that. Certainly have an expertise in that. But let's dig into that first real quick on that expertise. Give folks a little bit of geography on the amazing Kasim Aslam and where you are and what kind of led you to write this book and focus so much on that hiring process.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you reading it. I do have an audiobook coming, so I'll send that to you if that's easier and better. I'm far more successful than I deserve to be. I've built 6, 7, and 8 figure businesses. 5 of them have been agencies. I've had 2 exits, 1 for 8 figures. And it's all built on this core thesis, which is the only skill an entrepreneur actually needs to master is talent. Once you've cracked talent, you don't need to crack anything else. It's like the super skill or the meta skill, because once you're good at finding good people, any problem you encounter is now not just solvable, but solvable in a way that doesn't cost you time, which is our least scalable resource as entrepreneurs. And dude, it took me a long time to learn this lesson, but then once I learned it, I feel like I'm weaponized in a way that a lot of people aren't. And what's really frustrating, I think, for a lot of folks is it's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me. There are people that are smarter than me, work harder than me, figure things out before I do, and they just can't keep up. And they can't keep up because what they don't realize is they're running the cart themselves, and I'm just building chariots, and I'm doing it with these extraordinary humans that just they astound me daily. The talent that I have access to astounds me daily, and at the risk of maybe slandering my personal environment, they're not impossible to find. Dare I say, it's actually not unique. I think every human on the planet has the ability to be a literal miracle if given the right opportunity in the right context. And so I want to help employers do that. And I built a framework, dude. It's my life's work. It's 20 years of iteration and working towards finding and cultivating and nurturing and managing top talent. And the book is free, the cheat sheets are free, the templates are free, the audiobook's free. There's no ascension, there's nothing to sell on the back end. My goal in life is to help people in emerging nations find more meaningful work. And we're running towards that goal, I think, with some degree of efficacy. So that's kind of the background. How did I do there?
A plus, my friend. I love it. Yeah, it's a good setup with this. What comes to mind too, the barriers to achieving what you've achieved in terms of talent and this realization and this superpower that you've cultivated in other people. I think two main barriers. One is that old style of thinking when it comes to people
Mm,
and hiring and having them in. The far end of the spectrum, though, is that doing everything yourself, especially at the super small business, solopreneur, coach, consultant, and both are barriers. I know for me personally, right? Like I've done a little bit of outsourcing project by project, I can hire people in, and there is this, I feel like there's this chasm. If I could just jump over that to fully let go and embrace, because I believe it all up here, but that I feel like I need to either completely shift what I do so that what I'm selling, the business I'm in, much like your Google ads, I've heard you talk about too. It's just like, I've never run a Google ad in my life. I grew the top agency in that. It's like, I feel like I almost have to do that, like go to a business I can't do just to keep myself from being in it and being the one doing at times. And so I think those are two different mental barriers. Are you seeing that? Do you have, you know, smack in the face words of wisdom for either of those spectrums?
no, it's not smack in the face at all. I actually think it has more to do with just your goal. I build Legos with my son, my 10-year-old. He's just a little genius, and he loves building and creating, and he likes little things, and he likes getting and he likes seeing how things are made. And I remember at one point I was getting so frustrated because we've got this Lego castle that is massive, and I was getting frustrated with the process because I just wanted the castle done. Like I was like, as soon as we have the castle, then we can play with the castle. And I realized it's the building that's fun for him. And I was waiting until, like, in my mind, we can't play with the Legos until the Legos are done. And for him, it was like, no, actually, this process, start to finish, is the point. And I use the analogy because I think it's really helpful to look at things in, sterile ways or terms or through a child's eyes, let's say. It's the classic, explain it to me like I'm 5. I think entrepreneurs need to forgive themselves if, and it sounds like there's some of this in there for you, Jason. You tell me if I've misdiagnosed. Sometimes we're playing. Sometimes when you dive deep and you get your hands dirty and you're doing the thing in you're really engaged, then my only question for you is, well, do you want a castle or do you want to build the castle? And I have some friends. My friend Perry Belcher's like this. We were talking about him on a pre-roll. That dude loves to play with stuff, loves to tinker, and he will sit there and play with an AI tool for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, just trying to get something just right. And that process always yields fruit. He always has great ideas and great ideation. And somebody might look at that, and let's say he's trying to come up with a book cover. He's using an AI image generator to come up with a book cover. A person like me might look at that and say, dude, delegate that. Send it to an EA. Stop wasting your time. You're Perry Belcher. You're the godfather of digital marketing. Why would you spend your time's worth a few $1,000s an hour at a minimum? Delegate it. And that's, I want a castle thinking. He wants to build it. He wants to play. He wants to build the castle. So do you want a castle or do you want to build a castle? And both are equally okay, by the way. Like, they're both okay. I just think that that's the starting point of the question. If you really just want a castle, stop building the castle and go delegate the castle building. If you want to build a castle, great, keep it. And most entrepreneurs don't give themselves the luxury of really understanding or identifying the difference. It's all right to want to be the mad scientist or the artist or the inventor, as long as you've made the decision to do that. It's when we start doing work that is beneath our pay grade and doesn't have, a peripheral yield. That's the stuff that we need to get off of our plate and delegate out to another human. So I wouldn't grab you by the shoulders and shake you at all. I think that, given who you are and what you do, I think some of that work is probably like really, really fulfilling. And then some of it, dude, stop doing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just time to let somebody else take it and run with it.
Yeah, I think that's the piece. I think that's a perfect example. Like with Perry's got that great, like, yeah, he's sitting there tinkering with that book cover design, but his business isn't dependent on that book cover getting done
Right.
today
Right.
either. So he's allowing himself to kind of play, and it's a lot of stuff that's tangential to, he's going to go have his next conference talking about that process he's going through right now too. So it also makes sense, and he gets to play while business is going and running. And that's a good piece. I think it is that letting go and like you said, make a decision, right? Same thing of, hey, do you want to be a one person business? That's okay. Do that, but don't get frustrated at the things that you don't have that only come from a 500 person business, because that's not what you're building.
Yeah. What's your buy box? What's the goal? What do we want here? Is it a lifestyle business? Do you want money? Do you want an exit? Do you want cash flow? So I think us defining the ideal scenario and then working backwards into it, nobody does that. Nobody teaches you to do that either. And I still struggle with this, dude. I can't stop seizing new opportunity because there's so much of it. You know what I mean? Especially now. And I had a friend call me yesterday, my business partner, Yvonne, who owns half of my staffing agency. We just got the green light on this amazing opportunity. I'm so excited about it. It's AI staffing and training for this huge organization. Um, I can't give away their brand. I'm not trying to be cryptic, but it's just a really big deal. And Yvonne called me yesterday, and we're a smaller piece. So we have the referral partner gets 10% of the gross. So shave that off. Well, no, back up. The organization we're partnering with gets 50% of everything that we're selling from a certification perspective. So then now we have half. And then the referral partner who sent us the deal gets 10%. So now we have 90%. And then we're splitting that with the other guy that's helping to do the job, who's kind of the primary point of contact. So now we have half of that. And then there's me, Yvonne, and Nuno, who are the three partners. So now we each have a third. And Yvonne's like, this is a multi-million-dollar deal. And when you do the math, we're all getting about $100,000. And all of a sudden it let me know, like, oh, I'm playing in the wrong sandbox. My goal, I want $100 million net to me after taxes. And I'm not going to get there doing deals at $100,000 a pop. You know what I mean? Like, now there's a continuity thing and a membership on the back end and the upsell and the ascension and all that garbage. And had I started with my buy box from the beginning, I never would have said yes to this deal. Ever. So I think that was just a good lesson. I learned that last night and was reminded of it. And it's something I work myself into often. It's a problem that, just because you can solve a problem doesn't mean that you should. And here I am, guilty again of breaking that rule. So
It reminds me, I heard you talking about this too. I was going to get into this a little bit later, but it's a perfect segue of this idea, especially us as entrepreneurs. And when we do have that team, going to them with figuring out this process, because you painted the perfect picture in one of your videos of going to them with every idea. Perry talks about that. You brought up, he talks about doing this with his folks all the time, like the idea of the hour, right? And it is, hey everybody, here's what we're doing now, and it can be, to the point you were making the other day, it can be such a disruptive force. Sometimes it works. How have you either tempered yourself with that, or kept little side projects, or keep it to yourself at a time? Like, where's that threshold, right? So that you aren't disrupting this well-oiled machine you've got. They're doing their thing in your business, and you're in like, hey, here's what we could do. And then everyone's like, well, we got to listen. We got to try this. We got to go down this road. But it may shut everything down. It may lead to greatness. Where have you found that threshold to before you go to your team with this brand new idea?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it goes back to talent. If who's the who, it's Dan Sullivan's Who's the Who, and if I have a who for it, I have a young man that works for me now. His name's Camilo. His official title is business builder. And when I have ideas, I send them to Camilo. And when Camilo's at capacity, I either have to take something off of his slate, or I don't get to distribute that idea. So as you come up with ideas, I think entrepreneurs, this rule that we offer entrepreneurs, you have to focus, only do the one thing, the whole Gary Keller thing, there's a lot of wisdom to it, and it negates who we are innately. I think we need to tinker, we need to play, we need to do all those things, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't disrupt our current business or destroy our staff. So if you have an idea and there's somebody on your team or in your organization that has bandwidth, great, let's play. If not, that's your limitation. I don't want to be on the org chart. I don't want to run a business ever. I have, there's 15 entities that I'm a tax relevant owner in, let's say, which would mean that I own 20% of the business or more. And so I have a portfolio of companies, and every single one of the companies, I actually have a Google sheet that I check on a weekly basis. And my question for my EA is, I need to know what the next step is for every single entity that I own. And I need to know who the driver is what I call it. So I'm looking at my Google sheet now, and I have a column that says driver. And I know Donna's driving Nito, and Yvonne's driving Pareto, and Nuno's driving architects. And then I have a question next to tech stack, because I don't know necessarily who has that and we're going to put in front of it. And so as long as I have a driver and I have a next step, I don't have to do anything, because I just need to know that the driver is moving towards the next step. And this is why I think talent acquisition is so important from an entrepreneurial perspective, because if I'm the driver, it's over. I now have this one thing that I have to focus on doing, and it doesn't let me zoom out and operate from a 50,000 foot view, which is where I think entrepreneurs tend to be the most effective and most successful. So I think if you're listening to this podcast and you take nothing else away, go focus on talent acquisition. Find, poach, steal, kidnap, do whatever you got to do. Like find people that are extraordinary and needle movers, because those are the people that are going to really make you successful. If you're banking on yourself to make you successful, I think that's a bad bet. You can do it, but it doesn't allow for the diversification or amplification that other people do. When I sold Solutions 8, I had an 8-figure exit on a business that had 80 employees plus 20 some odd regular contractors, called 100 people. And one guy managed 40% of my revenue. This is John Moran. He's the greatest Google Ads man in the world. One person managed, but that's the Pareto distribution, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. And had I not had John, Solutions 8 never would have been Solutions 8. And again, God forgive me for saying this, there are other Johns out there. Yvonne he was my EA, found him as a 20 some odd year old kid going to school in Poland, was promoted from being my EA to the tech lead of our company, to our CTO, managed my entire exit. We got him over here on H-1B when Russia attacked Ukraine. And now he's my business partner. And he and I own Pareto Talent together. And I touched nothing. I found out yesterday that we're running our next boot camp in August. I don't even know the dates. I don't need to, right? Like that's the point is there are these people out there that will run these businesses for you if you give them the opportunity. I own AEO.co with Perry Belcher, and the entire thing is run by Julian, who's a Colombian EA who ended up just being absolutely brilliant. We had to kiss a couple of frogs. He and I tried to do a few things. He was my business builder before Camilo. Me and Julian tried to build a newsletter business for, I own conservativeboomer.com. We were going to build a newsletter business for the conservative elderly. We tried building a social media repurposing business. We tried to do a few different things, and all of a sudden the AEO opportunity showed up, and Julian was just on it like a pit bull on a beefsteak. He now manages a staff of 5 people who, for the last 9 months, have done nothing but study how LLM sources citations. We've written the book on AEO.com. Julian did it. We started the community on AEO. I own school.com/AEO. Julian built that. I just got off of Josh Nelson's podcast promoting it with a slide deck of 190 slides that was all built off of Julian's. Like, I have this just extraordinary human being. I'm going to be the world authority in AEO. It's Julian doing the work. You know what I mean? So like, and I feel like that's accessible to all entrepreneurs. So crack
Oh
me the
yeah.
talent code, man. There's nothing that, especially in the world of AI, there's nothing that it's the little hinge that swings the big door. There's nothing that could be more effective for your business. Because when you find a really adept person and then you weaponize them with AI, one person can do what an army used to take an army to do. So that's my drum to beat. That's my sales pitch.
Oh yeah. And and let's get into some of that tactic too, because again, back to this idea of getting outside of this typical, traditional, 100-year-old version of hiring somebody and getting out of it. We have so many opportunities now globally, now AI, now tech, everything enabled that we don't have to, okay, let's do the posting on Indeed. Let's get this, send it to HR. This old style, which anybody, if you talk to anybody out there in the just world looking for a job, it's just worse and worse and worse because it
Dude,
is
yeah.
so commoditized. Like to even break through that. So not only are the potential job candidates it's a disservice to them, it's also a disservice to you as the hirer to find these gems out there like you're talking about. How can we start to, if, mid-sized company, it's doing its thing, it's got its infrastructure there, but how can they start to, let in the fact that, we really can outsource this overseas. This can be a remote job. This can be, we can find people that aren't going to show up or even know about us on Indeed or whatever it is. How do we start down that road of opening up out of these old style silos, I guess?
The way to begin, I think, if you're not used to an environment that allows for the distribution of work in a non-traditional way, which is my fancy ass way of saying, like you're stuck to the way that you do things. Go hire yourself an assistant. Everybody should have an EA. And the EA is the easiest role to hire for because it's the easiest role to fire for. It's a very, very soft commitment. And it doesn't change the org chart and it doesn't threaten anybody's job. And so if you don't have an EA, go hire an EA. And what's really fun about having an EA is all of a sudden, you get this dumping ground for everything you don't want to do. And an EA it's the only role that I know of that basically doesn't have a job description, which means you get to send them anything you want. And that's the agreement between employer and employee. Hey, I'm gonna send you a whole litany of tasks. Now, the expectation can't be that they're going to be good at all of them. That we have to be really clear about that. You're going to send your EA 10 things to do, and they're going to suck at 2 of them miserably, and they're going to do 6. They're going to do 6 just fine. Check the box, I did it. And then they're going to do 2 better than any human you've ever met in your entire life. And then, if you're smart, you go, that's your new job. Same way I do with Julian. So, and my first EA became my director of automations. Her name was Julianne. She was a young woman in the Philippines who, as an EA, wasn't great. She wasn't really good at calendar management. She wasn't really good at some of the research stuff I was doing. She was probably too smart for the grunt work, to be frank. I think she got bored. But then as soon as I had her start doing automation stuff, bro, like she she flourished, she thrived, she bloomed. Um, and she built the entire infrastructure at Solutions 8 from an automation perspective. All of our Zapier, all of our Airtable, all of our high level was on Julian's back and in her mind. Like I had one of the most over-engineered agencies. Everything was automated because I had her. And she was just this extraordinary resource. She started as my EA. Julianne Amador. If anybody, I think Julianne still freelances. So if somebody wants to go find Julianne Amador, Amador, shout out to my former EA. Go poach her from wherever she's working. I had another EA become our director of social. Yvonne was an EA who became my CTO. So starting with an EA and then actually delegating real work. Don't, if it's just cold calling or data entry or any of that garbage, you're not taking enough off of your plate to see where somebody's really skillful. Delegate them a project. Every entrepreneur has a list of 30 things they've never gotten to. Go send them one of those things or send them all of them and say, hey, tackle these in sequence. Keep me updated. The key is if you're delegating tasks, you're not really delegating, you're micromanaging. Delegate projects, not tasks. And you'll start to see what people produce. I call it the black box of delegation. The black box of delegation says you're allowed to define the input and the output. So the output is your desired end result. That's what you should define first. So I want a training program for new employees. I want a course on how to do this thing. I want to write a book. I want to launch a new product. I want to create a website, whatever it is, desired end result. The input is everything you're willing to invest. Here are the other stakeholders involved. Here's the money I'm willing to spend. Here's the software available to you. Here's our brand guidelines, whatever. Input, output. What happens inside the box? None of your damn business. Ignore it, leave it alone, stop worrying about it. As soon as you lift the lid on the box and peer into it, you've now ruined the entire process. It's just like old school photography. You have to keep it in the dark room. And not everybody's capable of functioning that way. And what I mean by that is that's true of the entrepreneur. It's also true of the resource. That's why you have to find the people that can do that. And when you find them, hold on to them for dear life, because those are the people that can build entire businesses for you. And that's what the book is about. The book is a framework, a step-by-step framework with templates for finding people that are thoughtful, intelligent, proactive, hardworking, and most importantly, want you to get out of the way. Because more often than not, it's you and it's me, it's the business owner, it's the entrepreneur that is inhibiting the productive process. And so the framework has kind of this built-in thesis that allows us to identify the folks that are actually going to get stuff done.
Oh yeah, because to your point, in that black box, that's the person you want, is that person who, leave me alone.
Right.
Right. And you've got great segments in there too of, in that hiring process too, those, the fly traps you call us going through there, and all these little things through the hiring process just to make sure that they can follow instructions on their own. They can do this. I guess there's two things, right? There's being able to follow instruction. And then there's also the black box aspect that, hey, I just need to give you, here's what I want, go rock and roll.
Right.
And they're both criteria of, hey, is this person can I trust them to go?
Right.
And if they're just so uncomfortable, okay, what would you like me to do next? What is step 3 of this process? Like that, to your point, that doesn't help. Then you're a micromanager and you've just got another job.
Well, and in the post-AI world, that person is so replaceable, it's not funny. That's the other problem now. I think there's a whole bunch of different opinions on this, and I take the dystopian view. I think we're looking at the biggest labor collapse in human history. It's a funny time to write a book called Hire. It's one of the first times that you actually need less people, not more. But that's why I think it's so important, because you need far less people, but the people you need to be far better than anything that we've ever looked to attract. Mediocrity used to be acceptable. It used to be okay to hire, I need this job done. I can get 20 mediocre people to do this job. The way AI works, 20 mediocre people just means you're scaling mediocrity to the moon, which is deadly for a business. What you need is one exceptional person. And that one exceptional person gets quantified. That's what AI does. It's like you're taking this human and then you're making them nuclear powered. And so, 20 mediocre people used to be able to build just about anything because over time and with iteration and supervision and management and processes, they could create something that was acceptable. And that's not true anymore because everything else along the periphery is done by the computer. The one thing you need now, the kernel, the input, has to be brilliant because that's the thing that's being amplified. So, in the world where we are looking at a labor collapse, we're also looking at an amplification for high quality talent, in equal measure. To the same degree to which labor will collapse, so too will there be and this is proving out, this isn't a theory. Mark Zuckerberg offered $100 million signing bonus, not salary, not, over the course of 10 years, $100 million signing bonus to anybody from the AI team over at OpenAI to move over to Meta. I don't know an athlete that's got $100 million signing bonus.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the point is now, and at the same time, Meta's laid off thousands of engineers. So is Amazon, so is Google, so is Microsoft. And they're making more money in those layoffs. So they need less people, but the people they do need are of a level of critical importance that money no longer matters any longer. That's the new framework.
When it comes to tech and all of this kind of stuff, it's easy for me to say, and I always acknowledge that. I'm the optimist, right?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's going to work out. It's going to figure out because tech helps in these ways that we're not even imagining yet and all of that stuff. So I lean into that. But how do we, as we build that, I've heard you and Perry talk about it, making your money with AI now, investing in everything that isn't going to get touched by AI. Is that sort of, I feel like it's something every entrepreneur should be thinking about and hedging their bets a little bit of going in fully with AI and looking for every opportunity that AI isn't going to touch as those needs increase.
Dude, the key performance indicator in every entity I own now is how much and how well are you using AI
Mm.
for employees. So I take a contrarian view. It's so funny. I think employers are doing it all wrong. I think internally employers don't want employees using AI. I don't know why. They're like, they feel like they're getting out of work somehow. And then externally, employers are so obsessed over what AI does. I think the opposite should be true. I think internally, the KPI should be how well you use AI. And externally, we shouldn't be obsessing over what AI does. We should be obsessing over what AI does not do. The entrepreneurial opportunity is in identifying what AI can't do and then doing that. Nobody's going to pay you to do what AI does. They're going to pay AI to do that, right? So they're going to go buy an AI tool. And by the way, everybody who thinks that they're coding AI tools, you're not. You're just teaching ChatGPT what to put native next. So it's like, oh, I vibe coded this AI tool over the weekend. Great. You just illustrated that whatever it is that you created is now unnecessary in terms of professional services because it can be created in a weekend. And if you figured that out, so too can your client. The thing to do is, what can AI not do? What are the things that don't scale? That's where the margin is. That's where the money is. That's where the opportunity is. And it's hysterical because everybody's running as far away as they possibly can to all of those things. Dude, answering the phone. A real human being answering the phone. Insane, Jason. The opportunity there is so immense. It's difficult to hyperbolize. Like, why are we AI-ing customer service? It's the one place in business that's actually been opened up to allow for real human connection and real human endeavor. And AI allows for the scale and the margin and the growth to fund it. Like, why isn't a
Right.
business working on finding really adept, very intelligent, very empathic human beings who are fully empowered with the decision-making necessary to actually solve problems? And when I call American Airlines, I call Hilton, I call these massive companies, and it takes 15 freaking prompts to get to a half alive dipshit that can do nothing for me, who I don't understand and doesn't understand me, and that is not where we should be saving money. Where, and there's so many opportunities to do what AI can't do. And those are the profit driving endeavors. And that's where I'm focusing my entrepreneurial life. And that's the best advice I've got.
Well, yeah, and to your what feels right in line with Pareto talent with this is making that case to these businesses to go, yeah, you just saved, you could fire half of this department
Right.
because AI does it now, but don't just, wahoo, here's cash. Now pour that into bringing in a level of talent in your customer service that isn't, oh, I've got to have it because people are complaining and they call. Instead, hey, this is our differentiator.
Yep.
People are amazed when they call us, right? I mean, Zappos built and exited based on that, right? And I haven't seen too many companies follow suit.
Dude, I'm not seeing anybody do it. And it's not just customer service, it's not just sales, it's not just support. It's rethinking the fabric of business. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the words, that doesn't scale. That doesn't scale. We're not going to do that. It doesn't scale. If it doesn't scale, I won't do it. Pre-AI was actually a pretty sound thesis. Pre-AI, if it didn't scale, it was hard, and there were so many things that did scale, and it was like, let's focus on what scales. Post-AI, if it scales, AI can do it. If it scales, we don't need you. Now, does that mean it's not valuable? No, it actually might be so valuable that it needs to be a ubiquitous truth across, like everything ChatGPT does is valuable, and it's not profitable any longer. Like I've got a friend, Chad. Chad has built 18 number one apps in the App Store, created the Emoji app. He's had 4 billion downloads to his name. He's one of the top app developers in the world. He's created 1,000 millionaires, really brilliant guy. And Chad was sharing with me, I think there's something, he has some software application that he looks at when he's looking at what apps do and how much they make. There are apps that will tell you what kind of plant is in a picture. You take a picture of a plant and it'll tell you what kind of plant it is and how to feed the plant and how much light it needs and whatever. And there's $60 million a year, I think, being made by these apps. And there's dozens of them. ChatGPT does that native, right? So that's all the things that scale, because it's a scalable endeavor. ChatGPT can do native, or Perplexity can do native, or could at some point be built in natively. I would be really, really cautious about all the things that scale. I would start looking at businesses that do not scale. I'd look at endeavors that do not scale. Like, what we're doing right now, what you and I are doing doesn't scale. Like you could go and you could vibe code you just go to, you don't even need to vibe code. You just create a conversation in ChatGPT between two people on hiring, and then we'll put it in Notebook LM and have Notebook LM pump out a podcast, and that podcast is going to sound, that's scale. So you could scale the data to that. You have hundreds of thousands of podcast episodes tomorrow, massively scalable. And I don't, would anybody listen? I don't think so. This doesn't scale. You sitting here in front of your computer for an hour, listen to some, self-obsessed, can't live without attention entrepreneur who just wants the spotlight talk for an hour.
Wow, you just described me perfectly. Yeah, that's great.
You know what I mean? Like this doesn't scale. Like and it might be the most valuable thing that we can do for our business.
Yeah. Well, and for me, certainly what I do for folks is that exact thing. That's why I'm so heavy into that. Call it what you want to, personal brand, whatever,
Dude,
whatever it is.
Personal brand is the most important thing for people to invest in. You know what my children are doing right now? I swear to God, this is true. I just bought my boys 2 Chromebooks. They're 8 and 10, and they're tasked today. I need 2 videos from them. They each need to shoot 2 videos, teaching other people how to use AI. They have to edit the videos with intros and outros. They have to come up with titles, descriptions, and thumbnails, and we're going to put it on YouTube. Because I think the only 2 skills that are going to be of any value in the future are generating a personal brand and learning AI. And that's it. I don't see an employable endeavor beyond that. And so my kids are, Dude, my son gets sent home with homework, which I think is absolute horseshit because they send him to Montessori school, and Montessori shouldn't have homework. And he asked me, he goes, "Can I use ChatGPT for this?" I was like, "Absolutely." And you take every other kid in that class, and they're all gonna learn whatever the homework's teaching them. My boy's gonna learn ChatGPT, and now let's put our money on those kids and figure out which of those racehorses wins that race, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I've been amazed with my boys of watching over the years this new generation who even my oldest, 10 years ago, watching him on his own go in, didn't he was frustrating because he didn't want help from dad, right?
Yeah,
Like, I kinda do this for a living, I could help you with it. Like, "No, no." And go in and make videos like YouTube videos he watches and stuff, and he's not the kid who's, "Look at me," and in drama and all, like,
yeah,
not that kid, and it just so easily jumped in, turned on camera, hit record, and it's, my youngest now is really into drum, putting, this acting lesson up on TikTok and just on their own, that fearlessness, I just love it
mm,
because it is so valuable.
yeah, and I think people want to hear from people, be with people, talk to people, commune with people, like, we've lost community, and AI is doing this really interesting thing, it's kind of freeing us up to swing back in that direction. Dude, in 20
Yeah.
years, we won't have screens. It's weird to think about, like, you and I grew up basically in a world that was seen first through the screen,
Mhm.
and that I don't think that's gonna be true for our children's children.
Meaning what, like, implant, virtual, like, what do you mean
No,
as the
I do, and I
alternative?
mean, what the hell do I know? But as I read and I study the collective thesis from, the eggheads who know, the question becomes, why would you need access to a screen? If I can talk to my AI mechanism, whatever that is, I've got a little pin on my lapel. Any question I ask gets answered. Any information that comes in can be projected onto my hand. Like, what's the what would the purpose of the screen be? An
Mm.
email now, instead of me sending, is now just like even the conduits. There would be no difference between email and SMS and Messenger and WhatsApp. It would just be like, "Oh, Jason had a question," and most of the questions that you have are probably answered by pre-designation, right? And then, like, I don't know, man. I mean, outside of watching a movie, even that I think that is gonna change massively. I don't know why we'd be looking at screens. Anyway, that gets more prognosticative than we need to, but yeah, I think the whole
But
world's
that's the
gonna
fun stuff.
change.
But that's the thing too of, like, that's what baffles me so much about the employees who are so fearful of AI and all this, like, to your point earlier, because, like, how can you possibly in 2025 sit here and to anything that is put in front of you, go, "Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be possible." Like, how you there's nothing you can say that to.
Yeah. No, it's
How
all
can you not go like, "Yeah, I can see that."
yeah. Yeah, what an
And
amazing time to be alive, man. I think the Mayans were pretty damn close. Like, from 2012 to 2025, that was uh it's a blessing in so many ways. I'm actually really optimistic about AI. I think on a long enough timeline, AI cures all of humanity's ills. I think in 100 years, AI will be the best thing that's ever happened to us. But in 50 years, it's gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of growing pains.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Well, this is awesome. This has been fantastic. Um, I know we went down a few different rabbit holes, that's the fun part. Again, that's the non-scalable part. That's the
Yeah. That's
that's
what
the
doesn't
juicy
scale.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend uh, everyone out there go and jump if you've got any business at all, and I mean I think there's value in somebody out there looking for a job. Read this book because there's so many insights of like, oh, that would make me Pareto talent, right? That would make me a superhero in the eyes of these folks. Um, I think it's strong. Tell us how, who you think should go and grab this and how they can do that and reach out to you.
Yeah, they can have the book for free. You can go to thehirebook.com. The thehirebook.com. You get not just the book for free, you also get cheat sheet, worksheet, templates, a job board, like everything that you'd need to follow step by year. If you follow the framework in my book, I think you're about 14 days away from the greatest hire you've ever made. It's free. There's no upsell. There's no course on the back end. There's nothing I'm trying to push people into. And that's the only thing they can do is if somebody hires somebody using my framework, if they're willing to tell their story and tag me on social, I'll give them a free 5-day course that'll turn their new hire into a battle-ready rock star. That's the only additional ask, and it's not money. It's just tell other people how well this worked for you. The book officially publishes in September, and so your audience would be getting a early sneak peek, let's say. And that's it, man. My goal in life is to help people in emerging nations find more meaningful work, and I think this is the best way to do it. So go to thehirebook.com. The book is yours, and I'd love to know people's feedback. I appreciate you having me on the show, Jason. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother.
And we'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining us on Strategy in Action. Remember, true industry leaders don't chase opportunities, they attract them. Want to build your own market gravity? Visit MediaLeadsCo.com. See you next time.